I finished the Vaas DLC for Far Cry 6. I got an early copy on PC from Ubisoft. I toyed around a bit with the different difficulties that unlock after your first run as well. I unlocked items for the Far Cry 6 main game. There's namely a new gun that immediately unlocks when the DLC is installed, but we'll go more in depth on that in the weekly reset video on November 16th, so stay tuned for that. No, but right now I want to focus on the expansion itself and share many tips because it can be overwhelming at first. Okay, let's begin from the start. You access the expansion after buying it and installing it on November 16th via the main menu or by interacting with the TVs you find in the different third-person home bases. And of course, if you like the Far Cry content, then leaving a like on the video would really help me out. Subscribe to be up to date on all the Far Cry news, and let's go. We play, of course, as Vaas and start in the middle of the map at a safe house with only a 1911 pistol, and from there you can go in any direction you want. So yes, it's a small new open world we can explore. Don't expect like a lot of content, but I love especially how different each area feels, and overall I really like the design of the world. The idea is that we are in Vaas' mind, so expect to see crazy things, but I think they did a great job of giving this the familiar Far Cry 3 feel, but in overdrive, as Vaas would see it. The highlights are totally the special visions or flashbacks you see play out in front of you. There are 18 in total that add extra context and backstory to some events in Far Cry 3, but mostly just flesh out Vaas' character even more, and especially focus on his relationship with his sister Citra. I do wish there were more like real cutscenes, like we see at the start of the DLC, but still the acting and dialogue is great in these flashbacks, and it makes me want a smaller Far Cry game with Vaas as the main character. I think that would be really cool. But most of the time spent in the expansion will be on killing waves of pretty scary looking enemies in order to get cash to improve Vaas. You namely start out with very little health. It doesn't regenerate over time, which is a huge change. Now you need to use healing syringes to get your health back, but only have 2 at the start, and when you're out of them you have to wait 30 seconds for a new one to become available. Chests can refill healing syringes too, so it's smart to only open them when you're low on healing syringes. If you got them maxed out, then opening a chest is less valuable. Especially early on, because you can easily get overwhelmed, and when you die you lose almost everything except the things you purchased with cash. So that's why it's super smart to early on in the game go back to the safe house often to buy these upgrades. Being able to double the amount of healing syringes for only 200 cash is amazing. For example, I died quite some times early on, but once I got the hang of it, I never really died anymore in the Mastery 1 difficulty, where you start your first playthrough of the DLC. So yes, it's smart to at least buy the first upgrades, also where you keep 500 cash after dying. So you at least start with some good items each run. And once you got those, you want to focus on the health upgrades and buy them whenever they become available. Because once you get a ton of health, you will stop dying. So then the game will become way more manageable. So in short, get the early 200 cash upgrades, but mostly focus your cash on the extra health and also on some weapon upgrades. So again, you start out with the 1911. You can also buy that for free each run, so you always have this pistol at the start of each run, and you can unlock other weapons in the world by completing certain challenges. By exploring the world, you will come across these locations, and there's one location per weapon category. Once you interact with the chest, you activate these challenges, where you basically have to kill an X amount of enemies that keep on spawning. There will be more enemies spawning than that you have to kill, but once you complete the goal, the weapon is yours. And then that weapon also unlocks in your armory, so you can buy it for cash, reroll mods if you want. And sometimes when you die, the weapons can also change, although it's kind of random. I'm not really sure how it changes. I mostly have the same weapons, but here, for example, I had the BZ-19 as the SMG, while also during one run I was able to get the MP5K. So that's kind of to change things up. But yeah, don't expect a lot of different weapons. Because for the shotguns, I only found the SBS so far. And if you watch my stream, then you noticed that that is totally the one weapon you want to get. Where the other rifles have quite a long time to kill, which gets even worse on higher difficulties when enemies get way more health. having this one-shot kill shotgun is a game changer. And sure, on higher difficulties, you will not always one-shot kill enemies, but you're close. Like, it's way better than using a rifle. So totally make sure that you get it as soon as possible. You find the shotgun spot over here on the map, which is very close to the starting point. You also find powers from enemies and in chests, which are basically the perks from Far Cry 6. Like, at one point I had a similar parkour set built with increased stamina and the movement speed, and also the slight increased movement speed. And because you're mostly traveling on foot, focusing on these powers is really amazing. There's also one that boosts the amount of healing syringes you can carry, like that one is of course amazing too, or that boosts health. But yeah, in order to equip multiple of them, you have to unlock new slots in the power bar. And this was also something I spent cash on during runs, because again, when you die, you lose most of your cash. So make sure that you don't run around with a ton of cash, because you will easily lose it. And there's only one thing you can spend cash on while exploring the world, so when you're not in the safe house, and this is the power bar, which again lets you equip more of these powers. So totally, when you find a new power and have to unlock a new spot in order to use it, and you got the cash with no plans to return to your safe house soon, just unlock the extra slot, as you will then have it for all your future runs. And the best power by far is the 1-up, which, as you might expect, lets you cheat death, so you can continue. And you get one of them during the main story locations when going after the dagger, so you cannot miss it. But there are also these special trials where you are dropped into a small room, have to survive waves of enemies, and once you succeed, you also get this power. Super useful, of course, if you're struggling, so maybe focus on these trials, although these trials are hard, so make sure that you don't enter with like a lot of cash, you might die. But yeah, getting the power is really nice, or you can also sell it for 1,000 cash if you don't think you need it. But yeah, maybe you already noticed it, the activities in this DLC are really samey. It's always kill enemies. I really wish there was more variety also in these combat encounters. There are 2 optional story locations though that do add some extra gameplay elements and are a more like linear story focused approach. But I think overall having some extra objectives during these trials or different types of enemies would have already come a long way. One more important thing that I was wondering myself while playing is, can you save between runs? Because that's of course not common for roguelike games. Well, this DLC has an interesting system, so if you quit when you're just like exploring the map, you will lose everything. So make sure you are in a safe area, so in the home base where you start, or in one of the safe houses you find in the world. Then you can save and quit to the main menu, and then when you boot up the game again, you will have kept all your inventory items, so your weapon loadouts, powers and cash, but you will always lose your mission progress. So you will need to do all the locations in the world again, meaning that you will have to complete them all in one sitting if you want to complete the DLC and get out of Vaas's mind and get some cool rewards too. Again, I will be going more in depth on those Far Cry 6 main game rewards. Maybe it's already up, then you will be able to watch it by clicking on the screen. A like on the video would of course really help me out. Subscribe for way more Far Cry 6 content. For now, I will speak to you in the next one. Goodbye.